Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to impartially unpack the specific, real-world mechanics behind the wave of policy actions issued by the Trump administration during the last week of May 2026. We are going to look closely at the exact official releases and directives from that week, not just to read what they say on paper, but to really figure out the tangible effects these actions are going to have on the structural framework of the entire country.
To make sense of all this, we've broken this explainer down into 4 core thematic pillars. First, pushing for skilled trades. Second, nuclear energy and innovation. Third, the Sweden prosperity deal. And finally, targeting government fraud.
So, let's jump straight into part 1, pushing for skilled trades and shifting workforce development.
Looking at the official May 27th release detailing the administration's workforce goals, you can see a really clear pivot. They're actively moving away from what they're calling the College for All experiment. And take a look at this data point right here. It's wild. 60% of Gen Z Americans now plan to pursue skilled trade work. The administration points out that the median pay in these trades is now matching or even exceeding a lot of 4-year degrees. So what we're looking at is a massive, highly targeted, federally backed effort to redirect the emerging workforce straight into industrial labor. But the absolutely crucial thing to understand here is the actual financial mechanics they're using to make this shift happen. We're talking about leveraging 529 savings plans and injecting $229 million in Department of Labor grants into critical sectors like defense and shipbuilding. By establishing workforce Pell Grants and totally eliminating taxes on overtime, the federal government is heavily subsidizing the training pipelines for corporate contractors and heavy industry. And the real, on-the-ground effect of this? Federal education dollars are essentially being systematically rerouted to directly supply companies with blue-collar labor, all while keeping those workers from taking on traditional college debt.
And you can see how this all comes together. The administration's overarching narrative in this official release is that bringing back supply chains and adding new tariffs is driving a massive quantifiable surge in demand for construction workers and electricians. But notice who is really stepping up here. Private industry giants like Google, Amazon, and Home Depot are committing to fund these programs. This means large corporations are directly benefiting from this federally subsidized influx of skilled labor to power their domestic manufacturing.
All right, moving on to part 2, nuclear energy and innovation, specifically focusing on regulatory and output shifts.
In his May 22nd remarks, Director Michael Kratsios outlined the tangible effects that recent executive orders have actually had on nuclear energy. If we look at the historical arc here, this whole thing builds all the way from the 1953 Atoms for Peace initiative straight to the current administration's very aggressive new goal, which is getting 3 small modular test reactors to achieve criticality by this coming July. Now, just to put that into perspective, prior to these specific executive orders, Nuclear Regulatory Commission reviews could take over 20,000 hours. The current administration has dramatically slashed that timeline, meaning regulatory oversight is now happening at a mere fraction of its historical duration.
And that brings us to the number 5. That represents the 5 gigawatts of nuclear power the administration plans to add to the American grid by 2030. To give you an idea of scale, that's the equivalent to building 5 large new reactors. This even includes restarting shutdown reactors like the Palisades plant in Michigan. It signals a rapid, highly centralized push to fundamentally increase baseload power capacity across the Midwest and beyond.
So, by stripping away what they're describing as unneeded bureaucratic burdens, the administration has fundamentally overhauled the NRC. And this is resulting in record-fast plant renewals and major military shifts, like the Janus program, which aims to deliver military microreactors by 2028. The real structural effect of all this is a massive financial and operational boom for large energy corporations and defense contractors. I mean, with $2.5 billion invested in domestic uranium enrichment and military installations getting their own microreactors, nuclear expansion is being heavily accelerated. It's significantly benefiting the industrial base while fundamentally altering how environmental and safety reviews are traditionally conducted.
You can actually see this mindset in this excerpt from the official transcript. Director Kratsios confirms their absolute commitment to avoiding duplicative submittals for innovators, all while pushing hard to reindustrialize America's nuclear life cycle. By clearing out the red tape, the administration is prioritizing speed and commercial partnerships, basically trying to meet the massive energy demands driven by the AI race and advanced manufacturing.
Okay, let's pivot to part 3, the Sweden prosperity deal and strategic bilateral cooperation.
On May 22, 2026, the administration signed a technology prosperity deal, a memorandum of understanding with Sweden, which opens up a completely new framework for technological integration between the two countries. This foundational document aims to fortify economic competitiveness and national security. But here's the catch. It does this without legally binding either participant to direct financial expenditures. Basically, it operates as a blueprint for how the two nations are going to align their private sectors and research institutions.
And the breadth of this bilateral coordination is just massive. We are talking about everything from establishing subsea cables across the Arctic to partnering on Artemis lunar exploration missions to quantum medical sensing. The agreement heavily emphasizes building trusted technology stacks and interoperable 5G and 6G networks. This serves as a direct, structural mechanism to isolate global supply chains from foreign adversaries.
Looking directly at the text of the MOU here, one of the primary goals is securing health supply chains. They plan to do this by specifically identifying choke points and reducing any reliance on adversary-linked networks for things like biomedical research. Furthermore, it introduces strict talent integrity safeguards and enhanced disclosures for government-funded research. This is a very clear signal that they are tightly restricting exactly who gets to participate in high-level scientific R&D within the United States.
Finally, we arrive at Part 4, targeting government fraud and the massive enforcement push.
Turning to a massive data release issued on May 26th, detailing the White House task force to eliminate fraud, well, the sheer volume of their stated targets is staggering. When you look at the breakdown here, particularly that massive $22 billion in pandemic-era Small Business Administration loans that have been referred for aggressive collection, the scale really hits you. And look, while rooting out waste is obviously the stated goal, the real effect of pursuing billions of dollars this aggressively means a massive, sudden tightening of the federal purse strings, and that ripples out across the entire economy. This table here neutrally logs the rapid, highly localized mechanisms of this enforcement push. It shows exactly how federal levers are being pulled to freeze billions in state-level Medicaid and Medicare funding pending ongoing investigations. The real effect here is immediate. And honestly, it's severe. When you halt all new Medicare enrollments for hospice providers nationwide or defer $1.3 billion in California Medicaid reimbursements, it is regular Americans, folks relying on those exact state health systems, who face immediate, life-altering bottlenecks in their medical care while these federal audits play out.
This snapshot of the administration's timeline just reinforces their stated objective to relentlessly audit state units and empower whistleblowers across all 50 states. What we're looking at is a full-scale deployment of Department of Justice strike forces. They are targeting everything from daycare centers to real estate rings, resulting in a truly unprecedented halting of federal funds flowing into localized community services.
So as we step back from all these policy documents, ask yourself, how will these highly specific federal mechanisms, from freezing state Medicaid funds to integrating Swedish 6G networks, ultimately trickle down to impact the American workforce, grid resilience, and local healthcare providers in the years to come? Whether it's rerouting students into heavy industry, removing regulatory barriers for massive nuclear contractors, or cutting off billions in state medical funding under the banner of fraud elimination, these actions are fundamentally rewiring the relationship between the federal government, corporate interests, and the everyday citizen.